I'm Howard Nations of the Nations Law Firm in Houston, Texas. What brought me to the law was my love of horses. When I was 9 years old in a small town in North Georgia, there was a gentleman, a photographer there who had 2 Shetland ponies, and he had cowboy outfits, and he'd go around town and take pictures of the kids wearing the cowboy outfits riding the Shetland ponies. Well, I love horses. I've always loved horses. So I went to him and said, look, I'll make you a deal. I will take care of your horses completely if you will let me ride them when I want to. So he came to a point where he said he had to leave town for 93 days and he wanted somebody to take care of the horses and he would pay them $1 a day. So I went to him and said, hey, I'm the guy that's been taking care of your horses. I can do it for 93 days. And he said, okay, that's fine. And I said, you're going to pay me $1 a day, right? Then he came back after 93 days and he said, hey, the horses look good. Good job, kid. And I said, yeah, how about my $93? And he said, what $93? He said, what are you going to do, kid, sue me? And I thought, yeah, that's the answer to that question. So I went to my grandfather who took me to a dear friend of ours who was a local lawyer. We went down to his office. We spent about 2 hours in the office. He wrote down the facts, and then he called across the street to the courthouse and said, we need to talk to the judge. Talked to the judge in his office, told him the story. So he said, he called the sheriff in. He sent him out to pick up the guy. Said, bring him in, tell him he's got a trial at 1:30. He said, bring the auctioneer in also. So they come in at 1:30. I take the stand, we have a trial, and the judge orders the defendant to pay me $93. But then he also ordered the defendant to pay the lawyer $250 as a lawyer fee. We're walking back across the street and I said, Mr. Caldwell, my lawyer, I said, what does it take to be a lawyer? Because I started thinking, wait a minute, I worked the whole summer, I got $93. He heard about this case about 4 hours ago and he got $250. That's when I decided right then, it wasn't just the money, it was the fact I was so impressed by the dignified setting of the courtroom and watching this whole trial procedure. It really hit me. And boy, I decided on the spot that that's what I wanted to be. I joined the National Guard when I was 15. I served in the National Guard for 3 years, and then I went in the regular Army. So in the Army, I went into military intelligence and the Army Security Agency. I was trained to be a Russian linguist. And so after that training, I went to Korea and I served as a Russian linguist with both military intelligence and with the Army Security Agency. Everything I read the whole time I was in the military was all about lawyers. I read a lot of biographies of great lawyers and things. So I was fired up and ready to go when I got back and ready to go to college. I was from Florida, so I attended Florida State University, and I was in a hurry. So I went through 4 years of college in 3 years. And then I was extremely fortunate to get a scholarship to Vanderbilt University Law. So I went to law school at Vanderbilt, which was a great experience. Even though I was on a scholarship, I had a wife and child that just insisted on eating on a regular basis. So I had a job at a law firm with R.B. Parker, and that was such a great experience because I was learning the real practice of law. While I was learning the theory of law at Vanderbilt, I was learning the real practice of law at RB's office. And I had such great opportunities there. RB represented one of Jimmy Hoffa's co-defendants. The Hoffa trial was going on there. The pre-trial was going on at the federal court in Nashville. So I worked on the Hoffa case with RB for our co-defendant, but we sat in with all the lawyers on all the planning sessions and strategy sessions. And I mean, I just got to watch some of the best lawyers in the country because Of course, Hoffa could afford the best lawyers in the country. So afterwards, I told him, he insisted you call him Jimmy, so I told him later, I said, Jimmy, I'm very impressed by your knowledge of the law. And he said, well, son, I learned my law the hard way as a defendant. He said, that's not the best way to learn it. I started the nation's law firm on Law Day, May 1st, 1971. And I had a law partner, Richard Cross. We started out doing criminal law and civil law and probate law with our little firm. And it's the same firm I have today. We just had our 53rd anniversary of the nation's law firm on May 1st. We've had a couple of cases right off the bat. I represented a young man who was rendered hemiplegic while riding the roller coaster at Astroworld. So I sued Astroworld in his behalf, and I had a real problem trying to explain to a jury how the mechanism worked, because it was all about G-forces. I need to show the roller coaster in motion with a chart showing the G's at every given second along the way. So I paid $128,000 for the animation, and he made a precise animation of the exact motion, the exact G-forces on the roller coaster. And then he also made an animation of what happened inside the body, the blood vessels breaking free and going to the brain and blocking the flow and causing the hemiplegia. And so we went to trial, and I put the roller coaster image on, put it into evidence, and then I put the medical image into evidence. We had the good fortune the jury loved the animation. And after it was over, the judge spent about an hour with me explaining to him how we did the animation. I was suing for the defective design of the roller coaster, because the roller coaster just had a strap across here, a seat strap, and it left the head to whip around like a flag in the wind. So as a result of my lawsuit, the roller coasters all over the country had to redesign their seat situation to restrain the head and neck, as well as the upper body, as well as the seat. The problem in being in the personal injury business is you deal with tragedy all the time. The most tragic case I've handled in my 58 years of practice was a family that was having a family reunion up in Tomball. They had come in from all over the United States, and a group of them were sitting in a vehicle at the red light in Tomball when they were hit from the rear by a drunk driver. And it knocked the vehicle all the way across the intersection, and all of a sudden it's inflamed, just completely inflamed, because the gas tank caught fire. One child was burned to death. He couldn't get out. He was behind the driver. He couldn't get out. The driver was burned severely. The passenger in the front was burned severely. And the two girls in the back who were thrown out, but they had been burned severely also, but at least they were alive. The drunk driver didn't have any money, but I've sued the manufacturer. And I sued the manufacturer for defective design of the vehicle because of the placement of the gas tank. I moved into mass torts when they passed tort reform in Texas, and they took away the rights of Texas citizens to recover in most cases. So I simply went national and started handling cases on a national basis in mass torts. And mass torts is when you is like the current case of the Camp Lejeune case people have heard about. It's where you have several people who have the same injuries as a result of the same wrong by the same defendant. So instead of trying all those cases one at a time, they put them all together. And then the judge does discovery and tries a couple of cases and try to get them all settled. I do a lot of lobbying. I've done lobbying since the 90s in Congress, lobbying on behalf of plaintiffs, of injured parties, and just like we did lobbying to create the recovery in the Capitalist Union Justice Act, we had to lobby the United States Senate. We had 50 votes from Democrats to pass the bill, but we had to get 10 votes from Republicans. So it took a lot of lobbying, a lot of effort, and a lot of money, because lobbying translates itself into money at some point. But we got the bill passed. In 1973, my law partner and I began our own insurance company. We started an insurance company. And we started first making a bonding company because I had 9 lawyers in my firm and 6 of them were doing criminal law. And so we had a lot of bonding. So we created our own bonding company. We got it going in 35 states and we sold it. So that was one industry. And then another, I've always loved to travel. And so I had an international trading company which allowed me to travel all over the world. I'm an art collector. I've always loved art. And at one point, I had an art gallery in the Galleria. But I've been an art collector. I've been a collector of all kinds of things for my adult life. And it comes from all the travel. I see all the interesting things I see in the various countries I go to. And I just started collecting. My number one activity is I'm a gym rat. I've been working out steadily with a trainer since I was 16, but I got the trainer when I got back after I graduated law school. I now have my own gym. We have a gym here at the house. We built a separate building, and we have a gym and a spa, and Noel works out there. My wife and I we have a contest where we have to work out 5 days a week. I love the gym. I love the working out. I've done a lot of bird hunting, and that's for eating. And I've done a lot of, I've hunted Africa several times. In whitewater rafting, I rafted the top 10 on the Zambezi, which is the hardest one-day run in the world. I rafted that 3 times. That's in Africa. And everywhere I go that there's whitewater rafting, I've rafted literally all over the world. I have done a lot of writing. I write in trial lawyer magazines, and I publish. I've spoken in all 50 states to trial lawyers associations. I've spoken in 6 Canadian provinces, and I've spoken in 12 foreign countries. So I have about as much time speaking as any lawyer, because I've just been doing it. I've been doing it perpetually for all these years. I've been a leader. Actually, I've been president of 7 different trial lawyer organizations. And so, because I like what the trial lawyer associations do. I like what they accomplish. I like how they work together. The organizations work together to do things for the benefit of our clients. So I'm big on trial lawyer organizations. Our firm, for its entire existence, has been very conscious of giving back to the community. And we have we've aided numerous organizations, especially children's organizations. It started with me when I was in Korea. I adopted an orphanage because there was an orphanage there that they had nothing. And so I went in and got all the supplies from the U.S. Army and set up volleyball courts and also every kind of thing I could get from the Army. because I didn't have any money to pay for it. But then we set up, we got some of our people to go teach, to go conduct classes and teach them games and things of that nature. When I was in Korea, I taught at an all-girls university, Ewha Girls University, which is like the Vassar of Korea. That's where the really, really rich kids go. But they had been learning Russian they learn 5 languages as they go through their education. And they'd been learning Russian for like 3 or 4 years, but now they're seniors, and they wanted someone to come in and teach them conversational Russian, because it's one thing out of a book, it's something else to have to speak it. And so I had the privilege of going in and teaching conversational Russian to these extremely bright Asian women, young women, and that was a real teaching thrill for me. I also taught law school for 25 years here at South Texas College of Law, and the only reason I quit was because I started traveling all over the country, speaking in all 50 states, and so, I got admitted to practice on September 15th of '66, and I taught my first class on January 6th of '67, and then I taught steadily for 25 years. That moves into the philanthropy, and I have a foundation, the Nations Foundation, and through that, I've already made commitments that we're going to be giving back to schools, 4 colleges. I attended Florida State and then Vanderbilt, and they both gave me scholarships, and then South Texas College of Law, and then I also made a commitment to University of Texas, where my daughter attended both undergraduate and law school. So my foundation is going to provide scholarships to those 4 facilities. Also, we're going to do foundations for 2 things. We're going to give heavily to the veterans organizations, and I'm already setting that up with them. And then also, we're going to be working with people like St. Jude. I contribute to St. Jude now, but we're going to be contributing substantially to places like St. Jude, where they focus on the care of children. I was first acknowledged in Who's Who in America by them, and then later when they created Who's Who in the Law, I was acknowledged in Who's Who in the Law, and then they had Who's Who in Finance and Industry, and I was acknowledged by Marquis in I was acknowledged by them in Who's Who in Finance and Industry because of the insurance company we created. And then finally, I've been acknowledged for many years by Who's Who in the World. We've had a long-standing relationship, and it's always good to be able to tell people that are your clients, for example. They feel better if they see that you're in the Who's Who in the law. They feel better. If they know, my clients know nothing about me until they come to me. They know nothing of my history. But if they see all those acknowledgments by them, it certainly helps to enhance my reputation or my standing with my own clients. And so we give our clients a copy of my CV, and my CV has all the Marquis deals in it. So it's been very helpful to me to lend me some credibility, and I'm interested in just having credibility with my own clients right off the bat. It helps break the ice. It's been very useful for that.